Good morning and welcome back. We are looking at the moment at the wisdom literature in the Old Testament, and today is day 198 of our 365 days of Bible study. Today we're looking at the book of Proverbs. We're looking at Proverbs chapter 22, verses 17 to 29, and the source of these words might well come as a bit of a surprise. I'll turn you around so you can read them for yourself. Listen, and I'll teach you what wise people have said. Memorize what they teach, and you'll be glad that you remember these sayings and can peg them to your lips. I'd like you to put your trust in Yahweh, and that's why I'm quoting them to you now. I'll write 30 sayings for you containing useful information and good advice. I'll teach you what the truth really is. Then, when people ask you questions, you will come back with the correct answer. First saying: don't take advantage of poor people just because you can. Don't take advantage of people standing helplessly in the courtroom. Yahweh argues their case for them and is a mortal threat to those who endanger their lives. Second saying: avoid making friends with hot-tempered and violent people. You might get stuck yourself in the bad habits they teach you. Third saying: don't sign up to cover someone else's debts in case you find you can't afford it and they come and take your bed away as a payment. Fourth saying: if your ancestors long ago put up a boundary marker, never remove it. Fifth saying: if you show me someone who does a good job, I will show you someone who's better than most, fit for the company of royalty. And so it goes on. Back in 1923, Egyptian scholar Ernest Wallace published an ancient Egyptian papyrus, which was entitled The Teachings of Amenemopet, which is almost identical with this passage and the next 11 verses. After chapter 23, verse 11, the Hebrew scholar stops translating and goes his own way. But if we needed any proof that the wisdom school was international and not just Jewish, here we have it. The writer of the 30 wise sayings in 22:17 to 24:22 was not just using Hebrew sources, but had access to foreign writings and sufficient access to foreign languages to include this lengthy quotation from a non-Jewish source, whilst keeping to Amenhotep's overall plan of 30 sections. If it comes as a shock to you to find a verbatim quotation from a polytheistic pagan source in the Bible, maybe you should remind yourself that Jewish scholars had learnt a great deal from their exposure to surrounding cultures and had quoted, when appropriate, knowledge, legend and parable, and included it in the writings of their belief system. Hosea, for instance, had learnt to appreciate God as the source of love, fertility and productivity from his pagan wife. Stories like the flood and the Tower of Babel point to sources outside the Bible, outside Israel, outside Judah. And the language used later on in the New Testament by St. Luke and St. John reminds us that there was a culture in New Testament times that spoke of spiritual things in non-Jewish terms, like John's use of the term logos, the word, and Luke's up and down imagery when talking about the Ascension and Pentecost. This is a reminder to us to learn from St. Paul once again. He did not believe that God had been absent from other religions and philosophies. And when he came to preach in Athens, he took care to draw people's attention to an altar dedicated to an unknown god that had been erected there. He praised the people's piety. Now, for all its faults, the Wisdom School was a pathway for ideas between the Jews and people of other faiths, from long before St. Paul's great push out into the wider world. Are there still things Christians can learn from other faiths? How do we tell what to use and what to reject? These are big questions. And the modern world, with its mixing of cultures, is a place where such questions urgently need addressing. Tomorrow we see the Wisdom School at its most materialistic and most sceptical. And I will contrast it with the hope and optimism that was to come with Christ. And then from the day after that, we will start to explore the world of the biblical apocalypses and see what we can learn from them. See you tomorrow.